I was excited to see last night's game. Legit excited to see last night's game. And some of it's because I had followed Caitlin Clark a little bit going back to last year. I thought last year she took kind of terrible shots, right? But there were some parts where they were incredibly explosive. I'd followed it this year. I watched the semifinal game against South Carolina when she had 41 and she cooked them. And I was like, man, I don't know what South Carolina's doing, why they're not putting 2 on the ball. That means double teaming her. She comes up the court, double team her, make her give it up. Don't let her get it back. She gets it again, double team. Make somebody else create shots and make shots. Basketball 101. But regardless of which, I don't think a lot of Kim Mulkey in the way in which she has treated a lot of people but I think she's an outstanding coach. And I knew LSU had players, so I wanted to see that game. I was excited, and I watched it. And what's happened is, and I actually, I don't know if I blame the media or if I blame social media. I think I actually blame ESPN who covered it, the officials, and frankly, LSU. Okay, and more specifically, Angel Reese. Now, as a backstory, in the Sweet 16, Caitlin Clark was cooking Louisville, and Louisville has a player named Van Lith. What's her first name? Haley Van Lith. And Haley Van Lith is one of those, she's got the little, I think it's like pigtails, perfectly, but she's a killer, but she's constantly talking trash, right? She was the one who, she must have been talking trash to a girl from Texas when they beat Texas, and in handshake lines, the girl pulled her aside and said, call me the B word again, right? She gets under people's skin. And so Louisville came out great. Iowa comes back. Iowa's winning the game. Van Lith had been talking ish, and Caitlin Clark did the John Cena, you can't see me, right? When she hit a shot and it was a timeout and she's walking off the court. So as I'm sure you know by now, LSU was winning, frankly, dominating the game. Now, quick aside, the refereeing was a poop show. It was embarrassing. And it was equally embarrassing. Angel Reese, as well as many of her teammates, were in foul trouble in the first half, as was Iowa, and then there was a ridiculous technical foul, combined with the fact that Kim Mulkey, the coach of LSU, is acting like a crazy person when in women's college basketball, that's not allowed. Right? And we'll get to all that. Caitlin Clark gets a technical foul for batting a ball out of bounds so the ref can't get it. Delay a game technical, which gives her 4th personal foul. Kim Mulkey is acting like a crazy person. No technical foul. Right? You're just looking for consistency. It was a terribly officiated game because there were millions of people like me who love basketball, and I wanted to see this game. The best player against the best team with many players that are right there, right? They're right there. And what do we get instead? We got the ref show. We got a ref show. And I believe this, okay, that oftentimes, okay, and this happens, NBA people will talk about it, will never say it on air. I will. That they feel like female officials who have every right to climb the ladder to officiate games. There is no difference. You know how to officiate, you know how to officiate. But you had an all-female crew in the biggest women's college basketball game, and they made it about them, not about the players, not about the teams. But instead of talking about that today, the dynamics of this historic all-women's crew, or even about the game, or Kim Mulkey, or LSU, and how the teams put together, or what they did, or Caitlin Clark, all we're talking about is Angel Reese doing the you can't see me. Now, some of it is Angel Reese's own doing. She didn't just do it. It wasn't like it was back and forth trash talk. It was Caitlin Clark was playing, they were losing, and the game was essentially over, and she did it twice in her face. It's the definition of taunting. And you can say, hey, that's trash talk, and you're okay with it. Whatever, that's fine. But the second she comes up on stage, okay, the ESPN crew not only asks her about it, chuckles about it, champions it, as if, hey, this is the greatest thing ever. Here's Angel Reese after the game.
I'm happy. All year, I was critiqued about who I was. I don't fit the narrative. I don't fit in the box that y'all want me to be in. I'm too hood. I'm too ghetto. Y'all told me that all year. But when other people do it, y'all don't say nothing. So this was for the girls that look like me, that's going to speak up on what they believe in. It's unapologetically you. And that's what I did it for tonight. This was for it was bigger than me tonight. It was bigger than me. Twitter is going to go in a rage every time. And, I mean, I'm happy. I feel like I've helped grow women's basketball this year. I'm super happy and excited. So I'm looking forward to celebrating in the next season.
Okay, so there's this, people thought I was too hood. Who? And she gives us a little clue to what she's saying, okay? And this is the problem with Twitter, the problem with social media. But no one who's a legitimate human being ever said Angel Reese is too hood. Right? Like, what are you even talking about? Like, that you're literally creating a narrative out of something that didn't happen. Never happened. Ever. Ever. But that's on the top of, go back to Saturday night, right? Dawn Staley, isn't she the coach at Team USA? Okay, so Dawn Staley has had an incredible career, right? She won a national championship and a gold medal as a player. She's won a national championship and a gold medal as a coach. Like, there is no more accomplished woman in women's basketball from playing career to coaching career than Dawn Staley. Her team gets beat. Now, her team's super physical, and one of the coaches, I think Gino Ariema said, it's like a bar fight when we're going with them. This is what she said on Friday night after they lost.
The truth about our team, we're not bar fighters, we're not thugs, we're not monkeys, we're not street fighters. This team exemplifies how you need to approach basketball on the court and off the court. And I do think that that's sometimes brought into the game, and it hurts. And I do think that some of I'm gonna say it because I said I was gonna say it, whether we lost or whether we won. Some of the people in the media, when you're gathering in public, you're saying things about our team and you're being heard, and it's being brought back to me. Watch what you say when you're in public and you're talking about my team in particular.
Okay, so here's Dawn Staley, who frankly got outcoached on a Friday night, changing it and making it about her team, who's a very physical team. And the idea of being bullies, they are. They were undefeated, okay? And they intimidated teams with their overall talent, physicality, and toughness. And by the way, that's how San Diego State plays. That's how UConn plays. And they'll play tonight. Right? They overwhelm you with their confidence, physicality, and toughness. Dawn Staley using the word thugs, no one has used. And if she knows somebody who's used it in public, in private, or especially in print or on Twitter, please tell us. But she hasn't provided it. Okay? It's like a Jussie Smollett deal. Everybody is not racist. There is no racial background in people's discussion over her team, over LSU, and over Iowa. Like, it's just not. That's not what sports is about. And shame on you, Dawn Staley. That's what you've done is you've created a narrative that didn't actually exist. Nobody said that. We have to stop this. This is poison to our society. It is poison. We can't even enjoy the fact that a great team beat a great player. That was a pretty damn good team in an unbelievable sporting event that got people like me who love basketball, but I don't know. I never really watched that. I never got excited about a women's college basketball game. I was into it. I literally, we had a speaking engagement. It was from 2 to 3. That game was done at 3:30, and I'm checking my watch the whole time, and they put the game on, and everybody was watching. What are we doing? It's not, and look, Angel Reese is a kid. Okay, she's a young woman. She's a sophomore in college. She clearly lives in the Twitter sphere where, and this is the poison of what Elon Musk is doing, where anybody can buy a blue check mark and anybody's opinion is equal to legitimate opinions. That's not real. It's like you want to tell Kevin Durant, like, these people don't matter. They're not real. Hey, real is real. This is not real. It's an artificial. It looks like our world. It tastes like our world. It sounds like our world. It's not our real world. But for Don Staley to say, like, what are you doing? So, here's the deal, okay? When we're dealing with sports, it's not about race. And if women's basketball wants to be judged on an equal platform to men's basketball or to any other legitimate sport, then we can talk about the physicality and the toughness of a team with the same sorts of terms. Everyone knows what the racially derogatory terms are. And if they're used, please tell us. Please point it out. Right? Like even Dave Portnoy, who, he had a real disgraceful tweet last night. But the idea okay, Port's a racist now? No, dude, he probably lost money on the game. Plus, he's the initial founder of Barstool. That's on his brand. Most of those dudes, Big Cat, they're good dudes. They know Port's a loose cannon, right? And I'm sure he'll get his. But what are we doing? Everything's not racial. Everything's not again, this is we did this with the World Cup, right? Where the women were paid a ratio way above that of the men. Like, we want equal pay. If you bring in equal revenue, then you get equal pay. You're actually getting a much larger chunk of the pie. But how we reach this point where everything is turned to being about race? It's sad. It's poison. You got to stop it. You just do. It's just not. Especially in the world of sports, it's just not. So instead of enjoying the fact that LSU thoroughly and completely whooped Iowa, despite the fact that most of their starters were in foul trouble, and that a young woman who didn't score in the last 3 games has 21 in the first half. Instead of talking about that, instead of talking about what they did to frustrate the great Caitlin Clark, instead of talking about that, we're talking about this crap, which has nothing to do with the actual sport. And so shame on you, Don Staley. Angel Reese, again, she's a sophomore in college. I give her a pass. This is one where Kim Mulkey, you want to be a bigger than life. This is where you need to pull your player inside and go, hey, look, we won. The only thing that matters is we actually have a ring. I don't even mind her doing the ring, point to a ring finger. She did that in the Elite Eight. That's cool. I've done that before. We won the Big 12 South. Because Coach told us we were getting rings, we pointed our finger. Okay. But the taunting, you don't need that. What's the point? But if you want to be judged as in any way equal to that of the men's game, well, then you're going to at some point have to be able to take analysis and critique that's legitimate. Otherwise, you don't actually want to be you want to be judged differently. You want us to pump sunshine. You want us to tell us everything's great. That's what you're doing. So it's sad because I thoroughly enjoyed watching the parts of the women's tournament that I watched, especially the Elite Eight and Final Four games, and was excited to see last night. And my only issue with last night was the officiating was atrocious. It was a train wreck. By the way, here's Caitlin Clark when asked about Angel Reese's gesture.
Honestly, I have no idea. I was just trying to get to the handshake line and shake hands and, be grateful that my team was in that position. I was just trying to, spend the last few moments on the court with, especially the 5 people that I've started 93 games with, and relishing every second of that.
Okay. High road. And I legit, she didn't make any eye contact or whatever, which is all you have to do. And I understand, look, if you're going to talk ish, and you get beat, somebody's going to talk ish back to you. It did feel like it wasn't a dignified way to win a championship, right? I get it. You're better. You saw her talking trash to Haley Van Lith, and somehow that became, and maybe she's a trash talker all the time. Okay. But Like, the game is over. You won. You get the spoils. You get the interviews. You get the accolades. You get the, like, I don't know. Kind of felt like it wasn't needed. But even that, like, again, sophomore in college, can't make a gigantic deal about it. It's the reaction to everything somehow coming to some racial discussion, which is frankly disgraceful from people who are involved who know none of that actually happened. No one would. Rightfully so. Why would you? I don't get it.